Welcome to Eritrea YouTube channel and also Nafasi.com. Tonight I'm here to talk about the latest article from Jeffrey Feltman. Jeffrey Feltman is an American diplomat, former U.S. Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa. Uh, he has been a U.S. diplomat for a long time, and he wrote an article at the uh, foreign affairs.com, I'm sorry. Uh, the headline, "The country's problems go far beyond Tigray," and Ethiopia's hard road to peace. Foreign Affairs, Ethiopia's hard road to peace. The country's problems go far beyond Tigray. Jeffrey Feltman, December 26, 2022. I am uh, out here trying to kind of break down what they are trying to say. This is not something new, but this goes into the details of what the Blinken and State Department and the Biden administration's policy on Ethiopia, on the Horn of Africa, on Eritrea, Ethiopia is, and how it's being manifested. And so I would like to talk about it just a little bit. And it's very, very interesting. It is not the piece that he wrote today is not in isolation. It's part of a concerted campaign that the State Department has been doing. And it's really important that we break it down, talk about it, find out exactly what it is that they're trying to do. Just for context or perspective, that this is done at the highest of levels at the State Department. On November 22, 2022, before the peace agreement, um, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, spoke with Ethiopian Prime Minister, and in that conversation, he says Secretary Blinken recognized ongoing efforts by the Ethiopian government to work towards unhindered humanitarian assistance and restoration of basic services in the Tigray region, as well as the neighboring Afar and Amhara regions. The Secretary underscored the importance of immediately implementing the cessation of hostilities agreement, including withdrawal of all foreign forces and concurrent disarmament of the Tigrayan forces. He noted that the United States remains committed to supporting the African Union-led process, including the AU monitoring and verification mechanism. This is November, and it did not mention Eritrea. And then, right during the U.S. Africa summit, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken repeated almost the same statement, except on this statement, Secretary Blinken commended steps taken by the Ethiopian government to improve humanitarian access and begin restoration of essential services. The Secretary urged accelerated implementation of the agreement and access to the conflict areas by international human rights monitors. This is a new one, international human rights monitors. Secretary Blinken and the Prime Minister also discussed the urgent need for all Eritrean forces to leave Ethiopia, which is to happen concurrently with the disarmament of the Tigrayan combatants. The United States remains committed to supporting the African Union-led peace process, including the AU monitoring and verification mechanism. So, and this, just about in less than a month after the November statement, now Eritrea is central in what they are saying, and they're saying that Eritrean troops must get out, and this is what on December 13, 2022, Secretary Blinken's statement. So it brings me back to the article that on Foreign Affairs by Jeffrey Feltman. Uh, Ethiopia's hard road to peace. The country's problems go far beyond Tigray. And this piece kind of tells everybody what they are doing, the direction that they're taking, their policy, the approach. And so it is extremely important that we break it down. So what what they start out with is what happened in Tigray in Ethiopia overall, and the rape, the extrajudicial killing, man-made famine. This is what Feltman wrote in order to start the article. Denial of medical aid and services, and expulsion described by U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken as ethnic cleansing, are among the horrors of the brutal war that exploded in Ethiopia, Northern Highland, in November 2020. He says that up to 600,000 people died. The European Union said 800,000 people died. He said mainly Tigrayans. And uh, West and regional powers wrung their hands but did little to halt the violence to prevent Africa's second most populous state from disintegrating. So the international community, other than the United States and their European allies, nobody did anything. So this this piece is interesting because it gives policy directions. Tells what the problems were, and it touts the agreement, the peace agreement, and but it says that there are so many unresolved, thorny questions. And what are the thorny questions? Uh, it says even more troubling. They all but ignore the largest potential spoiler, Eritrea. What I said in the first Blinken statement was that on November 22nd, they did not mention Eritrea. On December 13, Eritrea became a central figure to what they are talking about. And so let me just share the screen with you. That way, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is on December 13. Secretary Blinken here says that all Eritrean forces must leave Ethiopia. And so now Eritrea is a central figure to what they're trying to achieve, which is a lot that's written on this piece right here on Foreign Policy magazine. It's very extensive. It details everything that they're trying to achieve. What are the most important points on this one? I made some notes and I'm going to share that with you. Feltman says there are a lot of unresolved issues, thorny questions for the peace, is what he's saying. More troubling, they all ignore the largest potential spoiler, Eritrea. Eritrea is now the focus. Feldman says, which has been fighting alongside the Ethiopian government in Tigray. It goes in neither party to the agreement nor mentioned by the name text. And It goes, also Asmara has been aligned with Addis Ababa throughout the conflict because Addis Ababa, not Ethiopia, views the TPLF as an existential threat, and Feltman elaborates. Addis Ababa may not be content with a peace deal that leaves the organization intact and its leaders alive, which means he does not want, Addis Ababa, meaning the Ethiopian government, and Eritrea may not be content with peace deal that leaves the TPLF intact and its leaders alive. So, for Ethiopia and Eritrea, the demise of the TPLF is existential, or they consider it existential. That's what they're saying. And then it goes. The role of foreign actors must be, in other words, all the donors, the European allies, the Western supporters, is what they're saying. Still, there are things that Ethiopia's international partners can do to support the peace deal and give it the best chance of succeeding. Uh, they can seek to create as much momentum for the agreement as possible, coming together to provide unified support for its implementation and using their limited leverage to dissuade Eritrea and other potential spoilers from prolonging the conflict. So, Eritrea is the spoiler to the conflict, uh, but there is a reason why they are targeting Eritrea, because it's a foreign actor, and it is Addis Ababa and Asmara trying to do this. So, uh, he also wants the international community to accelerate the humanitarian aid, uh, but most importantly, they want to push for a credible monitoring and verification mechanism. What is the monitoring and verification mechanism? We have to see what that is. And it goes, encouraging the warring parties to supplement the ceasefire implementation talks with a political process. What kind of political process are they looking for? And it goes, foreign powers can reinforce what so far is an encouraging but fragile Ethiopia bid for peace. How are they going to encourage Ethiopia? And who is going to do that? These are the questions that I'm asking. And then Feltman goes to the recommendation and to the answers. This is exactly where we need to pay attention. At the end of the day, however, the Ethiopian government will have to earn support of international partners through good faith implementation of the agreement. In other words, Ethiopia must do what it is told, and he created some benchmarks, and these benchmarks are extremely important because they are kind of what they want to see. The benchmarks come as directive to the international community. It says the international community should monitor, and it says include, because Eritrea is now included as part of the whole thing, the withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Ethiopia. They're not saying from Tigray, they're saying from Ethiopia. The government of Ethiopia is not asking Eritrea to withdraw. It is Feltman, which is basically a policy direction of the State Department. It comes from the Brookings Institution, which is where Susan Rice is a part of, has been a part of for a long time. And it says the local Amhara forces must vacate from Tigray as well. These are Ethiopians. And it goes, the initiation of credible transitional justice and accountability mechanisms. So the Ethiopian government must create a program, a process that the international community can verify with accountability. And, this is basically Washington and their Western allies. That's the international community that they focus on. And it goes, the establishment of a political process must be established that builds on and protects the ceasefire arrangement. There has to be a political process to protect the ceasefire. This is an internal matter for Ethiopia. Now, they are saying that there has to be a political process that they monitor uh, in order for it to be considered a success. So, um, who are they trying to protect? The ceasefire from? It says from spoilers. Eritrea is a spoiler, obviously. That's what they're focusing on. Uh, and that addresses the tensions and violence in other parts of Ethiopia. Only once Ethiopia's international partners are satisfied that Addis Ababa is making steady progress in these areas, this is what Feldman concluded. Only once Ethiopia's international partners, in other words, the Westerners, are satisfied that Addis Ababa is making steady progress in these areas, should they restore all the economic and development assistance they suspended in early stages of the war, all the AGOA and the other things that Ethiopia they took away from Ethiopia. The only way that Ethiopia can retrieve that or can get that again is by satisfying the international uh, partners. Who are these international partners? These are the United States, European allies, Japan, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and other partners that they have. So those are the members of the international community that they want to work with Ethiopia in this manner. So basically, the aid and everything that the State Department provides, or the direction that the State Department provides, uh, is uh, conditional, and the focus is Eritrea now, and they want to make sure the Amhara forces, the Eritrean forces that they claim to be in Ethiopia, regardless whether Eritrea and Ethiopia have agreements, uh, understandings, uh, regardless whether they are sovereign nations, they are being directed in this manner. And so this is why it is extremely important to really pay attention to what Feltman said today, because it really kind of uh, gives a clear indication of their direction. Basically, the directives that you just heard me read, I don't know, that was it came out clear, but it was very striking to me. Um, and what that means is that the peace process in Ethiopia is going to continue. They are not going to stop until they find a way that they can get themselves involved in the process. And so this is something that we all need to understand. It seems like right now uh, the Ethiopian government has sent representatives to Tigray, to Mawale, and there seems to be some kind of peace, but beneath that, this is what's lurking. The dangers are a continuation of the conflict. In some other ways, the continuation of the TPLF by other means, the survival of the TPLF by other means, and so this is something that we need to pay attention. I'm sure the government of Eritrea knows and understands it, and I'm sure the Ethiopian government knows and understands it. How far they can push this, for how long can they drag this without really doing some harm, is extremely difficult to tell. So, but we need to make sure that we highlight, point out the direction and what's going on. Please make sure to subscribe to Eritrea channel. This is a new program that we started, and we're just working out the kinks. there are any mistakes, it's just a matter of time to correct them until we correct them. And if you have any suggestions, what we need to do, what we can do to make things better, the kind of programs that you want to see, please let us know. Uh, this this is the kind of platform that the Horn of Africa needs. We need to be able to talk to each other. We need to be able to highlight, the developments that are taking place. The reason for that is because what they call mainstream media or the Western media has always been very skewed, very biased, and they push this kinds of agenda to the American people, to the unsuspecting American people. We know exactly what they're doing. What they're trying to do is to get their hands on the situation. Uh, Feltman is a credible diplomat. Uh, he has tremendous amount of background, credible background, and for him to be a part of the Brookings Institute and to be able to say the things that he says is basically forwarding policy. And so this is what we need to know. This is what's happening. This is not just an article that's just written just for the sake of because he wanted to say something. This is a policy direction that they want to take. They want to make sure that um, everything that I wrote about or just highlighted is implemented. This directive to their partners. So again, make sure to subscribe to Eritrea channel so we can do more. Thank you for watching. You have a wonderful night.